Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Ionna, InfyPower, and Eaton. Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. Also, InfyPower, the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. And Eaton. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware, and software gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI.
Hello and welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video. As you guys may have known, I have owned this 2024 Kia EV6 for just over a year now. We also have the newly refreshed 2025 Kia EV6 GT line here with us today, and we're going to talk about all that's changed with the new refresh and tell you why I actually think this is more of an upgrade than it looks like on paper. Welcome back, and let's jump into it. Well guys, over the past year that I've owned my 2024 Kia EV6 wind trim, I have actually really come to like this vehicle overall. There's some things that I absolutely love about this car, some things in the middle which I'm okay with, but I wish would be improved, and some stuff that has been really, truly terrible with it. Overall though, this has been a great car for my use case, and I think it's always important to talk about our use case with a vehicle. This has been my daily driver as well as my dog hauler. No, this doesn't have any sort of dog mode, something like Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid would have. There are ways to leave the climate on, of which my two golden retrievers are actually inside the vehicle now, staying nice and cool, but overall I've really enjoyed this thing. Now, with the new 2025 generation of the EV6, I really thought this was just going to be a light mid-cycle refresh, see some new bumpers on it, yada, 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 and it wasn't going to be that impressive. But I've actually been living with this car over the past couple of days and have actually been quite impressed with the updates and upgrades that it actually has. So first off, let's talk through some quick specs of the newly refreshed 2025. So this is the GT line, meaning that it is basically top trim until you get into GT, which also got a new refresh, getting a lot of the Ioniq 5N hardware underneath. Really, really cool that they share the platform. I can't wait to drive the GT variant of this, but the GT line got some nice improvements as well as the whole lineup in general. So we have a new 84 kilowatt hour battery pack over here versus the 77.8 on the previous generation. We got a nice little range boost as well. So EPA on the GT line last year was 252 miles. We're now up to 270 miles, of which I'm sure a lot of you are saying behind the camera, that's not enough range. The thing with these cars though, is it's really about the charging curve. That's where the EGMP vehicles are absolutely class leading in this segment with their charging curves. Now it brings up some interesting topics when we talk about road tripping with these vehicles, because if you guys have seen from our race to Vegas's, race across the countries, yada, 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 these cars actually don't do amazingly well because they're not the most efficient, but the amount of energy you can put in is really, really impressive. And that's something I have loved about my EV6. Being able to quickly top up the battery, boom, ride that charging curve and leave the station is really great. But again, you're burning through a lot more energy. So for me, this is not a car that I road trip, but it is a car that I frequently have to run down to Denver, across the Front Range here in Colorado, go up to the mountains. It's great to be able to do very quick stops and actually not have to road trip these cars, very similar to how we do with Teslas. Teslas really incentivize you to arrive dead, ride that charging curve, and unplug as quickly as possible to get to the next station to again ride that curve. This has been great because I can pull into a station at 30, 40%, jam a bunch of energy into it, and boom, I'm back out on the road. So we've got new battery pack, new range improvements here. We've got new updated styling. We've got the new CCNC inside with software, and that's where I kind of thought it stopped. But that really starts to become more when you're living with the car. We actually have the new digital phone key 2.0 in this. HDA has been really improved, which I was really surprised about. The Meridian stereo in this has been really improved. The software still kind of sucks. It's improved. It's same as our EV9 that we own. I'm not blown away with it, but it's better. Still way behind there. So what we're going to do, we're going to walk around the cars. I'm going to just show you around this thing, talk about the new updates to it, because one of the biggest things, especially on the front, are the new headlights. These are genuinely the worst headlights I have seen on a brand new vehicle in many, many years, and that has finally changed with the 2025. So let's walk around the car. We're going to take this on a drive, talk about more of the improvements with this thing and why this is actually a pretty darn nice car. We should also talk about pricing with the EV6, because these cars are crazy in terms of MSRP. And I really can't understand why they are, other than Kia, of course, actually moved production of the EV6 from Korea over to the US now. I'm assuming they were thinking they were going to be here and then they were going to get all the tax credits properly on these so that it would bring down, kind of buy down that rate. And yeah, that's all going to change September 30th. So this EV6 GT line retails at almost $62,000. Now that seems like a lot of money, but my wind trim was also a lot of money. This thing, $54,995 price as spec. So that is a big ask for these vehicles. Personally, would never buy an EV6. These are vehicles that are meant to be leased. And the nice thing about that is I only have this on a 2-year lease. So if I do decide I want another EV6, get rid of the old tech one, get the new one with all the new improvements just after 2 years. Now, you can say what you want about financial advice. This is, of course, not financial advice, but I would strongly, strongly suggest please do not buy one of these. You are really going to eat a lot of depreciation, especially if you swap cars frequently. So this is now painted in the new wolf gray paint here, which I think looks absolutely awesome, to say the least. Funny enough, I brought this car home the other night, and my wife pulled into the garage and she was a little pissed at me. She goes, "Did you buy a new car?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you think?" And she's like, "Why didn't you talk to me about it?" Then I explained to her, "Listen, this is a press vehicle," but I said, "What do you think of it?" She goes, "It looks really, really nice." And I will agree with her. The new updated styling looks really nice. The wolf gray paint, the GT line interior, really, really impressive. Now, the keen viewer also may notice over here, somebody has probably already commented this, these are not the wheels that actually came on this. These are the GT wheels with some sticky summer rubber on it, and I've actually been really liking this. Not the efficiency, but actually really like the styling. So over here, you can see very new face on the front end of this. We've got a big headlight design here, of which is a huge improvement in my opinion, not only aesthetically, but I also think with the headlights. The headlights, genuinely, I need to rant on this a little bit, because these are the worst headlights I've seen on a new vehicle in a very, very long time. These, especially in inclement weather when it's raining, snowing at night, are genuinely terrible. It doesn't even seem like you have headlights on. It seems like just the DRLs are on. The beam is terrible. The high beams are not bright enough. This is a huge, huge improvement. So that's +1 to the newly refreshed design. I also just think it looks really, really sleek. The EV6 is an interesting car to me because a lot of the times I look at this car and go, wow, that's a really attractive looking car. Then I look at it at certain angles and I'm like, that is a really disgusting looking car. So it's this very interesting vibe between them sometimes of where, yeah, absolutely love it and also absolutely hate the design. You can also see we've got a new wheel design for the 2025s. All the different trims got slightly different wheels. These are for the GT line here. So this is running a Continental cross contact 255 45 20 inch. These are on 21s if I remember for the GT. I think they're okay. They're not my most favorite wheel design. They don't look that amazing in my personal opinion, but I think they're totally serviceable. So you can see on this, on the GT line, we have all the painted arches, of which mine are kind of that piano black. I much prefer the design of this. This also, of course, has the 360 cams around it, of which I'm actually kind of disappointed on. We'll talk about those later on in the video. Moving to the back, this is where things for a lot of people are very, very good. You'll notice over here, we've got a charge port on the correct side. And the correct side, I say, because we also have NACS J3400 over here. Very, very nice to see. Now, my personal opinion is, I would still rather have that one, even though the charge port's on the incorrect location, because yeah, these don't charge very well on Tesla superchargers. I really think this transition over to NACS has been kind of weird, and Kia being one of the first ones to go in with the high voltage architecture is kind of a shame, because these cars charge so unbelievably well if you use EA, EVgo, things like that. Then you pull up to a Tesla supercharger and have a max of 125 kilowatts, which is kind of depressing to say the least. It's nice that Tesla superchargers are nice and reliable, things like that, but if I purchase one of these new EV6s, I'd still be going to Electrify America, Ionna, EVgo, all of those different ones to actually use that charging curve. So a little bit of a pro con there. A lot of people are saying how weird the design of this is. I think they did this intentionally, because if you use the traditional Tesla CCS adapter, it is meant to not fit in here because it's not the right limitations. The Tesla one has more limitations on it, so you kind of have to use the proper adapter here. Again, just one of those weird things that we're moving towards with NACS. You can also see the rear bumper has slightly different designs on it. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent? I don't know. I honestly kind of like the look of my wind back here a little bit more with all the piano black. This is just a little busy, and I can't quite understand why they kept this kind of darkened chrome trim. I actually vinyl wrapped mine satin black, and I think it looks a whole heck of a lot better. But that is it really for the exterior design. A lot of the changes are under the skin, and we also got some nice interior improvements as well. So opening up the door here, this is of course the GT line. So you have kind of this tuxedo vibe inside with the black, the white piping, the white stitching. I actually think it is pretty darn nice. The door cards largely are unchanged between all the trims. They're very plasticky, very cheap feeling. That is one of the most disappointing things with these cars, is kind of the ancillary areas. The touch points up here, the center console, the seats, the steering wheel feel very nice. Then you come to here and it's all kind of very, very cheap plastic. If you're looking for a nicer experience, and especially comparing this to Model Y Juniper does feel a whole heck of a lot nicer. But they did some things in here which are actually pretty important. First off, all of these areas in the GT line, basically in this area around the center console, used to all be piano black. They listened to customer feedback, and this is now a very nice kind of brushed finished material on here, which is very, very nice. The other thing that's been improved in here, new steering wheel. The new steering wheel is fantastic, and in my opinion, a big upgrade over the last generation steering wheel. So quickly, let me show you what that looks like over here. And apologies for my disgusting car. This is my dog hauler. You can see dog hair absolutely everywhere, but this is the old steering wheel, and I absolutely hate it. It looks terrible. It doesn't feel great in the hands. The two-spoke design, the two-tone design really does not work. Now, of course, I went for the lighter trim interior. You could get this in black, of which that's all one solid color. But again, also what's interesting on the wind trim down here is all of these areas are actually matte painted. So the GT line, of course, they had to make it fancier and put piano black in this area all over the center console. This was actually the right way to go. Also, one important difference here is the screen. So you can see this is kind of a matte screen over here, whereas with the new screens, we actually have it updated. They're more rectangular, not as angular, but importantly for me, they are actually glossy. Now, I know this may be controversial because probably a lot of you actually put screen protectors on. I really prefer a glossy screen. The contrast is better, the sharpness is better, and the new screen is actually really, really responsive. It's actually pretty impressive. This, of course, running the new CCNC software on it. Is it my favorite? No. Is it an improvement? Yes. Is it enough of an improvement? Absolutely not. So I'm glad that they're actually doing something, but they're nowhere near Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, any of the vehicles like that. The software is the worst part about these cars, and that genuinely does not change for 2025, which I'm pretty sad about. But you can also see down here the newly revised center console. So we've all got this kind of brushed finish, which actually looks great. Even the stop start button, of which shouldn't have in 2025, is actually matte, but they also missed this selector down here. This is all piano black. This stuff gets scratched like crazy down here. Overall though, I have really always appreciated the interior design of the EV6. It feels more like a cockpit. You kind of sit low in the car. I will say there is one big issue though that I have, and that is the sunroof cars. Now, I'll be talking about this more in my build quality review, but this really hampers your headroom. As you can see, I'm sitting as low as possible and my head is in the actual handle there. Whereas interestingly enough, my non-sunroof car over here, I have so much more headroom. So really disappointed to be in a car with the sunroof because of the amount of space that actually takes away. Now, is it nice that this opens? I guess, but it's not the biggest sunroof ever. I really would prefer they would do something like Model Y and have just a single pane of glass, because back there does, yeah, really feel like a dungeon. But other than that, I really appreciate the interior of the EV6, especially over Ioniq 5, of which you have a very goofy center console here. This just feels great. Now, Kyle has always hated this particular area down here because you can swap it from navigation to climate. I have never once used the navigation menu down here. This also controls volume and changing tracks. I just do that over here on the steering wheel. So it always defaults back to my climate control here. I like having all of these not hard buttons, but quick, easy to use buttons, because especially being my dog hauler, I want to have those quickly accessible. Then I just change songs by going here, change the volume by going there. Cancel that when I get a phone call. It's very simple. I also appreciate they've also used all these buttons in satin black on here. Steering wheel feels great. Now again, you can say you don't like the two-tone design, totally fine. I think it matches the interior. You have some accents there, accents on the seats. I actually think it very much works. Also new here, we have telescoping steering wheel, of which I think that is new. I could be totally wrong on that, but if I remember right, even the GTs, this was all manual control here. Could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section below. But very much like how this feels. The other huge improvement here, the Meridian stereo. That car genuinely, I know we talk a lot about Rivian premium audio being terrible. That has the worst audio system ever in it, and unfortunately Meridian put their name on it, and I genuinely couldn't believe it. It had zero clarity, zero bass. It just sounded terrible at really all volumes. Really unimpressed. So when I got in this new car, I was kind of expecting it to be the same. The grills all look the same. I had heard rumblings about it being different. Then I cranked up the audio and I was like, damn, this is really impressive. So this also has built-in Apple CarPlay, of which I can't do because I'm actually filming on my iPhone. The built-in Apple CarPlay is now all wireless. In those previous generation cars, you'd have to use a dongle or plug it in down here, which was quite annoying. So I just used a dongle and it honestly kind of worked exactly like this. So it is nice to see that they improve that coming to 2025, which it should be. But yeah, the software has been pretty snappy. The biggest issue that I've had with the software is it's just not intuitive, and this doesn't really change all of that much. Going into your settings here, you can see you just have menus upon menus upon menus, and there's just to change one thing, you're going 5-6 menus deep. It's really annoying. So that's been one of my biggest complaints. Now, one thing I want to check out here is the newly redesigned route planner. So that has been one of my other big issues with the previous generation car, is the route planner was terrible. And I've heard that it has changed for 2025. So let's say we're going on a race to Vegas. Let's go to Las Vegas. Boom. Interesting, using Google based here. Okay, also shows photos. One thing I will tell you, when you're actually driving around, it won't show photos, which is just hilarious because like Tesla, you can see like all the restaurants by it, all the stuff with it, but it locks this out while you're driving. So I'm gonna go to route over here. Do you say route or route? I say route. So let's see how quickly or not so quickly this does this. Available charging stations will be updated while driving. Okay, so it doesn't show us the full route plan, which is kind of odd. But it does give us, okay, so it wants us to stop for 21 minutes, go to from 21% to 79. So again, not really taking advantage of the full curve here. And then it's stopping us at 325 kilowatt station, a 125, a 350. Interesting. I need to play with this a little bit more. It does seem to be better, but it also where are all my settings for this? It's so unintuitive. I just hate the software on these cars. I really, really do. And I hate to be so harsh, but what is this? Okay, so that's just parking. I've not played with this near enough, but it does seem like it actually does a route plan. What that car would do is basically, if I would try to go to Vegas, it would just do charging stations around me, or I would have to manually select it. The other nice thing that this car actually has now is if I go into more menus deep, go to settings, we have battery preconditioning here, and we can activate it manually, which I do like. And the reason I very much like this, I've been using a better route planner in that car for my route planning. It has been amazing and has totally unlocked a new world of possibilities with that car. The only issue with that is you can't actually use the battery preconditioning. So what I would have to do, a better route planner would be up here on CarPlay. I'd have to come over here. I'd have to do this, and then I'd have to search for my charging stations, which is really, really annoying. And it's like giving me, okay, so it's actually giving me better than the last ones. This is better. This is definitely better. I just wouldn't say it's amazing. There we go. Okay, so it gives us state of charge on arrival. This is already better. For sure, it's better. So, good things going on here. I still just think like a better route planner is way better implemented. Now I can manually select battery preconditioning. I can select exactly what chargers I want to use, change my route plan. It just works so much better. So we also have new kind of center display over here, of which you can kind of change, oh my gosh, of how things are actually going. You can change how these buttons are. But overall, yeah, largely the same. But it really changes when you start driving in this car. So let's go run some errands now. We're gonna see how this car drives on the road, tell you about the new improvements, because yeah, it's actually pretty darn nice. Quickly want to talk about, before we go on a drive, the phone as a key situation. So I don't have this set up because this is a Kia press car, but I have experienced it in our EV9. And at best, I would say it's okay. It's been not as reliable as I would love. So I find myself still taking the key fob, of which the key fob is literally the same as the EV9 now, which is kind of cool. So you have all your smart park stuff here. You can turn it on from the key. Sorry for it not focusing. The weird thing though is with the key fob, when you walk up to the vehicle, it doesn't auto present the door handles like you would expect. So then you still have to press that to open the door handles. The other thing I personally don't love is on these with the auto presenting door handles is you can tell when the car is unlocked. So a lot of the times when I have to run in the store or something, instead of going through the stupid utility mode, I just leave the car unlocked and the door handles are flushed and it looks like the cars are actually locked. So in my personal car, when this is locked, I just grab this and open it. But you'll notice here, even the keys are right in my hand here. I have to press this stupid button and then unlock it, or hit unlock on there. That could be a setting. I may have to go menus deep, but it's a little wonky. So phone is a key. I believe it's exactly the same as our EV9 using, through like your Apple Wallet on my iPhone. It's okay. It just hasn't been super, super reliable. So let's jump in and get to driving. All right, guys. So let's turn on the EV6 here. Everything comes to life. And yeah, we're ready to go. Annoying that we still have stop start buttons. I know a lot of you are like, it's the best thing ever. I absolutely hate it. I really, really hate it in these cars. Once my butt hits the seat, should be ready to rock and roll. So unfortunately, nothing has changed here with the whole one pedal driving situation, the annoyance of switching in and out of gears, having to use the brakes. So let me explain. Over here, I don't think you guys can probably see this, but we're in level 3 regen, which means mostly we're running only rear wheel drive. The front motor will, at times when you're pulling off of a stoplight, turn on and then shuts off very nicely. It's actually really, really smooth how it does that, but this is not one pedal driving fully, so you have to pull your regen paddle. Now, the reason they do this is really for EPA testing, because the key up setting is what they use for range testing, so they want to keep the front motor running, so they run it only in rear wheel drive. What that means for you is annoyance here. So I put this in reverse. We've got our nice 360 cams here. And then for me to get into drive, I actually have to put my foot on the brake. So if I try to go into drive, it just goes into neutral here. So I then have to put my foot on the brake, and that becomes very, very annoying. So let's say I want to reverse into one of these spots here. It just goes into neutral. So now I have to slow down to put my foot on the brake. It's very cumbersome, very annoying to say the least. Wow, I did a really good job parking there, as you guys can probably see. Now to go back into drive, if I let my foot off the brake, it just goes into neutral. So you can see there's some weirdness of that stuff going on. So pretty much every time I have to put it into iPedal. Anytime you go out of drive or reverse, you have to do this as well. So for example, now I'm actually in drive. If I go to put this into reverse, it shuts off one pedal driving, so that when I go back into drive, now I'm not in one pedal. That is annoying. And I will agree with everybody, it gets annoying. I always find myself, you know, in parking lots, then the car starts rolling forward. I'm not expecting it to, because I just expect regen, and it's, yeah, kind of frustrating to say the least. So let's get out on the road here. We're going to take the road from my shop. We're going to take I-25 so we can talk about HDA here, talk about noise, vibration, harshness. So I can tell you, Kia has done quite a bit with isolation inside. It seems like they've done some different acoustic paneling underneath all of the skin of the interior here to actually help with the noise and vibration. And I got to tell you, the suspension actually feels noticeably improved in this car. It feels quite a bit smoother than my car. And I will tell you, even some of the harshness you'll hear over bumps, this being kind of the open cabin in the back, definitely resonates a lot of big bumps and big undulations here. But we're just going to put it in cruise control here, and we can also turn on HDA as well. So there's been some nice improvements there, but I can tell you it's nice and isolating here. I'm not sure it's quite as quiet as the new Model Y, because they have actually done some really, really nice improvements with the new Model Y. I would say this still kind of leans more on the sporty edge in terms of the suspension, instead of, you know, being ultra comfortable. And I think when you go to, you know, Model Y, it's definitely got a little bit more on the plushness side. I kind of think this is a good in between. It might be overly harsh for most people, but you can see we've got some little crack seals in the roads up here. Maybe you can, maybe you can't see it, but it's a really nice, quiet place to be. And yeah, this is what I really do with the EV6 all the time, is just commute to and from work, to and from, you know, wherever I need to go. And it's been great for that. And you can see I can, you know, sit here without my hand on the steering wheel, and it's totally fine. This system, unfortunately, let's be honest, people use their phone, is something you can actually do on here. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it doesn't have eye tracking, so it's not paying attention. I can look over here and it's not going to yell at me, and it just kind of does its thing. Now it does get kind of weird sometimes, especially around like roundabouts. It'll kind of do this big jerk situation. It is nowhere close to Tesla full self-driving at all, but it is a very good, at least in this generation, lane keeping situation. So let's not go too crazy, but we'll kind of get it in here. And honestly, the EV6s have always been kind of fun to drive to me. They're a little bit roly-poly, to say the least. It's not something that I want to absolutely go hoon, but they are still, they've got this little characteristic of you can still have fun with them. And speaking of fun, these things are actually relatively powerful. They are 320 horsepower in the all-wheel drive variant and 446 foot-pounds of torque. Now, the one thing I will tell you here, we have a bunch of undulations. The cabin noise inside is pretty good. I do, though, hear some creaks and cracks up here, unfortunately, in the headliner area. So that is not amazing. And also, there is another big creak in here. So where my knee sits, basically on this kind of armrest area, if I set it up here like I normally do, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's very, very crunchy. And what that ends up doing, that crunch, I'm not meaning to put pressure on that all the time, but when you get some of those undulations, you will hear some noise coming from here and this area above my ear, which is definitely kind of annoying, to say the least. But overall, it does feel like a more refined driving experience other than those creaks and rattles. Now, do I think the creaks and rattles are acceptable in any new car? Absolutely not. It's a brand new car. It should be absolutely silent. But this is something we see over time with vehicles, and this being a press car with only 1,700 miles, I would expect to have a more, perfectly refined experience here. Other than the creaks and rattles, it does feel very, very nice. The regen is so impressive in these cars, literally to the point where anytime I get back in my Tesla, I'm like, oh my God, I'm flying into things because the regen's just so strong on these. So there's nobody behind us. If I slow down, it just gives us a huge amount of regen there, which I absolutely love. So in the settings here, this is slightly different than mine, so it's going to take me a second, but we can actually see the front motor distribution. So normally how you drive these cars when you're around town, you kind of want one pedal driving. Then you get out onto the highway, so you'd select level 3, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but we're now only in rear drive mode. And it'll kind of lock this into it until really we pull away from a stoplight, need that extra power. But this is really the most efficient key up settings, which is hence why they do that for the EPA. Now, so as I'm coming in here, way less regen, pull the paddle, boom, way more regen there. So that kind of stuff is nice, really do love that. And the switch in between it, very impressive. Not nearly as bad, but not even close to as bad actually as Rivian with their clutch disconnect on the new dual motors. They are absolutely terrible. But again, still hearing rattles up here, that kind of stuff's kind of annoying to say the least. Yeah, don't love that, do we? So let's wait a bit until we get up here on I-25. We'll see how it does on the highway. We'll get to test out HDA a little bit more. The cool thing, actually, I didn't even realize it, I'm still in HDA, so I am controlling the throttle, the brakes, that type of situation, but it's steering for me, which is actually a really cool feature that I honestly use all the time. If I'm, dealing with something over here, have to quickly check something, allegedly, yeah, it's just like steering. Now, importantly, I don't know if this car does this. I haven't had it on some windy roads. I've been slammed at the shop. I have heard, though, this will not just completely give up like the last HDA system and not warn you. So I do think that's a very good, much needed feature. But you guys can see, even here around town, it's not asking me to touch the steering wheel. I'm not really paying attention necessarily to exactly what we're doing because I'm talking, I'm looking around, things like that. It's just kind of doing its thing. And that has been really, really nice, especially on the 2025 generation here. So let's accelerate up here onto the highway. Will give us a little bit more room. Yeah, the creaks and rattles are really annoying. That actually really, really annoys me. So we're here, 40% state of charge, normal mode. I guess we'll put it in sport. Boom. Plenty of power. Nobody needs more power than that. This is plenty. We're already up to speed. And the cars in front of us are going very, very slow. I think it's really impressive with these cars, even in, my wind trim, how quick and punchy they are. And it's perfect for around town, perfect for on the highway, things like that. Just merging over here. Lots of traffic today. What the heck? It's Tuesday. Don't know what people are doing, but so we're already in HDA here. You can see we've got a few more situations coming up here. So I'm going to select it back on and we can crank this thing up. This also does lane changes. Maybe. There we go. A little aggressive. It took its time. I would have liked to see it be a little bit quicker there. And we're going to juice this up a little bit. Here's the interesting thing too. I don't know if you can see power distribution here, but when you are actually in your cruise control HDA situation, it will actually shut off the front motor even though I was in regen. I'm also curious, let's see if it does this now. So if I want to select this back on, it's still steering for me. Select this on. It doesn't really do the little power boost as much as it did. So on our EV9, when you set the cruise control, and you're in, level 4 or one pedal driving, it'll naturally back off a little bit. And then you get this weird surge of power. It seems like they may have tuned that a little bit better here. So I do like that. Even the EV6 does that as well. My last gen did. So yeah, we're just cruising here on the highway. There's nobody behind us. We're just chilling in the left lane doing allegedly 3 kilometers an hour over. So barely over at all. And yeah. On the highway, I will say it is a little noisier for sure. Like I can hear a lot of noise coming from that semi over here. Around town, very good. On the highway, I would say it's a little bit louder than I would like to see. So I'd still like to see more isolation improvements. The crazy thing too is this you would think would be more slippery than something like a Kia EV9. Our EV9 is way quieter than this car on, road impact noise, tire noise, wind noise, just isolation in general. So I do think, yes, I appreciate the improvements they've done to isolation, but I wouldn't say it's class leading, and I do think there are still more improvements needed. But again, the HDA has been unbelievably impressive, especially on this stretch of road of which I've been driving quite a bit. My EV6 does this situation where the steering wheel just kind of ping pongs in between here. They've really dialed in the smoothness with this. You'll still see a little bit of it here and there, but it's gotten way better to the point where I actually do trust it quite a bit more than my EV6. So really, really enjoying this so far. And yeah, I don't know, what much more do you want to know about this thing? I mean, really, there's lots to love here. There's lots to be okay with, and then there's stuff that I still really dislike. I think one of the biggest things here being the software. The software still needs an upgrade. Okay, yes, now we have some route planning. I'm glad that we have manual preconditioning, and I'm not so glad that the semi truck is doing 6 under in the left lane here, but the software just needs some love. There's the menus deep of things, trying to get into stuff, not having a way to have pet mode properly. And you can do pet mode using utility mode, but then you can't lock the car. And I know people are like, well, just turn on the AC from the app. The app rarely works. The app sucks in these cars. So it's like, if they could just figure out the software, this car would be excellent. And of course, fix the rattles in here, which is really, really annoying. But yeah, next generation, please, Kia, Hyundai, just work on software. Benchmark, at minimum, do 50% of what Tesla can do, and we would have a very, very compelling vehicle here, even at the high asking point they're asking. But again, for me, I come from the EV6 looking at it, like $187 a month type of vehicle, and I'm like, okay, I can live with the software. I just turn on Apple CarPlay and a better route planner, and it works fine. And again, I'll just leave the climate control on, but I really would like to see a safety feature of having something stay on the screen like, hey, my pets are safe, because I think that is such an important thing. A lot of people have pets. Now, obviously, you don't want to leave your kids in here, but a lot of people take their pets everywhere like we do, and it's really unfortunate that I always feel uncomfortable leaving them in the car. The app doesn't load as quickly, so I can't necessarily check that the climate's still on, that they're okay. Those are some things that just, it could literally be improved overnight with an OTA software update. So that's a little bit of a shame. But as we're coming in here, I've got to run to Costco, which is why you guys are coming with me. I really enjoy the new EV6. The HDA experience is awesome. The new headlights are awesome. The suspension feels better. Pretty much everything just feels slightly improved. And that's why I was saying this feels like more than just an upgrade on paper, that we've got a new battery pack and slightly more range and, some new bumpers. You can say what you want about the styling. If you love it, if you hate it, it doesn't really matter to me. But the car has gotten better. So that's a good step in the right direction. I just personally think there is so much more that they can do with how well they do certain things. It's surprising that they really haven't figured out the software situation. So software is still an issue for me. I'll keep ragging on them until it's at a point of which I feel it's somewhat usable and somewhat good, I guess would be the best way to say it. But yeah, I really like the new EV6. Is it in contention for replacing my EV6 next year when the lease comes up? Probably. I think it's going to be really dependent on what the numbers look like. And that's been my thing with the old EV6 that I've been driving for the last year, is like, okay, new Model Y Juniper's out. That's great. But, leasing one of those, I'm going to be double, triple the monthly payment for a car that really I'm going to use in the same exact way. Are the creature comforts nice? Sure. But is it worth 3 times more than that? No, absolutely not, in my opinion. So yeah, we're going to go through the crazy Costco parking lot here, and we'll send it off here. Thanks so much for watching. See you in another one soon. Bye-bye.